Whoa. Hello, everyone. Here we is. Another beautiful day in Chicago, Illinois with us stupid idiots that root for Chicago sports. And yeah, that's where we're at. That's just, I don't know, boys, thoughts?
No, you summed it up. I think we're, at least on the Cubs side, I think we're coming to a realization that the information Judd Hoyle is feeding us isn't correct, because now the Cubs have been a bad team for 2 months and a good team for 2 weeks. So I think Hoyle has a lot of questions to answer for.
Well, tip the scale, 2 weeks, 2 months,
Right.
2 weeks, 2 months. Well, one is down here, one's up here. The scales aren't exactly even. So that's kind of the bad news. But, I kind of have this feeling that as we go forward with this year, not just season with the Cubs, this year in total, because you combine the Cubs' awfulness with the White Sox historic awfulness, and we have the Bulls doing whatever they're doing. I mean, we're going to have the NHL draft coming up with the Blackhawks, where there is some hope. And then next thing you know, we're going to have training camp for the Bears. We're going to have the Hall of Fame game. The Bears are going to be getting started earlier because of the Hall of Fame game. So I feel like the collective mindset of the Chicago sports hive is really going to shift, especially if the Cubs don't get any better. And frankly, at this rate, I don't think they're going to. I think we're pretty much at the point where I'm feeling they're too far gone. But, here you see Tommy and I were wearing Bulls stuff. And while we're not exactly giddy for this, there's giddy things to talk about. And I can't take credit for that joke because Tommy made it before the show started. So,
and that's fine because I wasn't going to say it on air. So I baited you into it. But
well, yeah, I took the burden. I bear the cross of your bad puns.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got a lot to get into. If you're watching on YouTube or Twitter or wherever, thank you for watching. But chime in on the chat and let us know your thoughts and feels too, because this is a very weird time in Chicago. Like when we went into baseball season, it was like we knew we were getting Caleb. There was the hope that was coming to the Bears. There was belief in this Cubs team. There was knowledge that the White Sox were going to be bad, but like it couldn't be any worse than it is. The Blackhawks were on their way up. Like there was actually hope in this city. And now we, as much as we hated the end of the year last year for the Bears, we're halfway through the baseball season now. And it's really the only hope we have is the Bears, because we're going to watch the draft. The Bulls are going to either do nothing or do something stupid. There's no in between. And the Sox are trash. Cubs are trash. Blackhawks, the draft is Friday, right? Friday draft, Saturday draft. So
Yep. They got the second overall pick. It's a very important draft. And
yeah,
you're not just going to see the draft. Kyle Davidson's going to do some stuff, and there's going to be a lot to pay attention to.
Yeah.
This is the next era of Blackhawks hockey. And Kyle Davidson has made it very clear that we're not going to be tanking again next year. We've tanked 2 years in a row. We're done with that. Are we going to turn into Stanley Cup contenders? No, but we are going to take that next step ideally. So they've already made the trade with the draft picks, obviously not the second overall pick, but you saw Kyle Davidson a few weeks ago make that deal with the New York Islanders. The wheels are already in motion to get things done here. And this separates, in my opinion, the Blackhawks and the Bulls, because yes, we have a trade to talk about, but with one team, there's actually a vision, and there's actually there's a proactive, this is what we're doing. There is a proactive transparency from the Blackhawks saying, here's where we've been at. This is where we're going to. We don't have that transparency at all with the Bulls.
Yep.
We can sense things, but we don't have the flat out transparency. The Bulls couldn't even bother to put together a thank you for Alex Caruso for putting his body and health on the line to be out there every night and play physical, hard basketball. And not only that, but to be a leader for the team.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of on par for this ownership group, quite honestly. So I'm not super surprised, but yeah, it just stinks. It's them. I wish they had traded Caruso and Levine and everybody sooner and accepted that this is the fate of like. And I get that you weren't trying to tank for this draft because I mean there's some very talented players that are coming into the NBA. Obviously, if you're going into the NBA and you get drafted into the NBA, you are one of the best players on the planet for basketball. But there's a lot of emphasis saying, like even we just saw what the Nets did. The Nets are in total tank mode for 2025 and beyond. They were
this
they
draft
were
is bad.
skipping this draft to get to the next ones, right? The Bulls, like they could have put themselves in a better position to do the same, I guess I could say. Caruso, we get Giddy, and Giddy, I mean, he has some promise, but it's not like he's going to be a name that's going to put more butts in the seats at the United Center. And it just stinks because the United Center is the biggest arena in the league. Arguably, Bulls fans like are starving for something. Like ever since D Rose left, and then you get Levine, and we're like, here we go, we got it. And then D Rose comes in and was like, oh yeah, and then Vooch comes in, and oh yeah, and like we've been teased enough. Like just do something for us, you know. So I don't know. It's hard to get excited. It's hard to get excited because I admit it that I'm more lenient to not watch the Bulls when they're not good because like I will watch the Cubs when they're bad. I will watch the Bears when they're bad. Bulls is one that I'm like,
I could tune that out.
Yeah, you know. Blackhawks is more so growing up my list because of Bedard and the promise of what's coming. So I like it's important to get in while the getting's good, you know. But yeah, the Bulls just give me no reason to get excited. And like tonight, if we weren't talking about it in our group chat about the draft, I would have completely forgotten the draft was tonight.
Oh yeah, I mean prior to today, I don't really. I mean, I know like obviously the line. I have some players, Terrence Shannon Jr. A lot of eyes on him potentially, an option for the Bulls. But other than that, the names at like the top of the draft, I had to really do some digging this morning to be like, all right, well, who's gonna be the number one pick? Normally, each year we have that legitimate number one pick. Next year, I think. It's gonna be the guard from Duke, right? It's supposed to be pretty good.
I think it's along those lines. And
next year's draft is looking a lot more promising. And you know, to your point, Jordan, like everyone was talking about Victor Wembanyama last year. Everybody knew who he was.
Oh yeah, he was the number one pick before the NBA season even started.
Right. Oh yeah, I mean it essentially was, you know, like you said, it's essentially Caleb Williams effect, like with the Bears.
Yes.
Yeah.
With the Giddey trade. Initially, I hated the Giddey trade. I thought it was a terrible trade. As I'm thinking about it, as days have passed, had time to workshop it, I like like Alex was saying, in a vacuum, I like the acquisition of Giddey to this team if it means that they're rebuilding. Giddey has more value to a rebuilding Bulls team than Caruso does. Here's the issue with the trade, as Alex touched on. You could have expedited this rebuild process by moving Caruso at the deadline. I think they had an offer that was a top 10 pick in this year's draft. Not a great draft, but it's a bite at the apple. You want to collect as much bites at those apples as you can. And now, even after Giddey, we're seeing mixed messaging. Some beat reporters are saying, oh, they're going to rebuild. Other beat reporters like, no, they're still planning on bringing back DeMar, bringing back Vooch, and seeing if Giddey can fit. But the reason it's hard to watch the Bulls when they're bad is for the exact reasons you guys pointed out. There's no direction. Even as a bare minimum, I would be down to turn on a bad White Sox game this season because at the very, very least, 1 out of 5 games, I get to watch Garrett Crochet pitch and look brilliant. But with the Bulls, there's nothing to look forward to. There's no Connor Bedard. There's no Caleb Williams on that team. You like Kobe. You like Io, but they're not players that you can look at as the reason you're going to be a contender in the East.
Yeah, and
Well, they're
Kobe
not
had that. Kobe,
cornerstones.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kobe had that stretch this past season that like all the three of us were like, Kobe's gonna do it. Kobe's gonna break through, and then it just fell right flat on its face. Like that's how starved this fan base is we were trying to make Kobe White a superstar. Like
Good player, not a great one.
exactly.
And that's okay. That's for him. That's okay. But I feel like we have this conversation with a lot of these teams, and like I'm a big fan of DeMar DeRozan, just in general. I love his demeanor. He's a great player. He's kind of on that weird, like, you have good players, superstar, and you're kind of in that in between where you're not quite the in prime LeBron or Kobe or Steph Curry or Giannis type tier, but you're kind of above a lot of the other all-stars. And I think he carries himself so well. But the guy's in his mid-30s now. Every year, Father Time takes more and more. You can't build a team around a guy in his mid-30s. You can't.
Yeah. It's just it stinks. So we're gonna be monitoring the Twitters because the Bulls just made their first pick right just now. So the Hawks. Sorry, the Hawks just made their first pick.
I was gonna say what?
The Hawks did.
My bad. Hawks just made the pick. It's the French guy. So we're gonna keep monitoring Twitter to see if the Bulls do anything cool while we're on the air.
It's the
French
guy.
They pick at number 11. So we'll keep an eye on it. Well, unfortunately, we have to talk about the Chicago Cubs. It's going to sound exactly the same as we've been talking about, but we have to talk about the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's going to sound the exact same. I think our podcast was one of the first podcasts 3 weeks ago to call the Cubs out for being a bad team. And we've had 2 episodes since, and nothing the Cubs have done in that time has warranted us changing our opinion. The Cubs are a bad team. They're inventing new ways to lose. They're not paying for the premium assets that you need to stack wins at a major league level, power pitching and power hitting. They're not paying for that. They show no signs of paying for that. And they also show no signs of urgency with internal moves that they can make. So there's no...
It's June. It's June.
The trade market's not open yet.
It's such a lazy excuse from Jed Hoyer that the trade market isn't open. The trade market opens when it necessitates it being open. For the Cubs, it necessitated you being open with the trade market 3 weeks ago. Now you're looking up, you're 10.5 games out of first place in the division. You're barely in the conversation for the third wildcard spot. I mean, unfortunately, we're at the halfway point of the season, and the season's already over because right now the division is probably out of your reach unless you go on a miraculous run like you did last season. But guess what? And this is the biggest issue I have with Hoyer when he talks about the Cubs. The Cubs didn't accomplish shit last season. They missed the playoffs. So when Hoyer holds it up as like a point of reference, like, oh, look what we did last year. You didn't do anything last year. Yeah. You didn't do anything last year. I mean,
the simulated expected numbers on a spreadsheet isn't reality, Jed.
Right. And your biggest move was getting you back to where your roster was at the end of the season. And that's not talked enough upon that. I mean, I know we talked about in the last pod, but the fact that the Cubs trotted Bellinger out as if he was this major addition when all it did was bring them back to the floor of where they were at the end of the season. And now they're not playing up to their ceiling. So this is exactly what they get.
Yeah, I want to touch on a couple of things, Alex, before I let you just go bananas. I want to talk about payroll for a second because that seems to be a hot topic. People demanding that the Cubs spend, the Cubs saying that they do spend. Look at how much they're spending. And I just want to highlight a couple things because I think the Cubs, what they're trying to do is show people that they're spending, but they don't want to spend because they want the young guys to be just ridiculously good right when they come up, which is an impossible ask when you're the Chicago Cubs, unless you're developing correctly. And I want to talk about a couple teams that are developing almost perfectly. First, let's talk about the Baltimore Orioles. They're one of the best teams in baseball. they've been coming for like they have been on the cusp of breaking through. They finally did last year, 100-win season. They win the East. They get the number 1 seed, and then they get swept in the play, or they lose the playoffs. I don't think they were swept, but they lost the playoffs.
Yeah, they lost.
I don't remember,
They
but
lost to the Rangers, I believe.
yeah, they lost to the Rangers, who went on to win the World Series. But that's a team. Their payroll right now, 115 million. That's because they did their work in the minor leagues, got these kids up, and they're just absolutely raking now.
It's all ARB pre-ARB deals.
Correct.
Right?
Yes, and then a bulk of that is the couple of starting pitchers that they had to go get, which they did because they have the cap space to be able to do that in a market like Baltimore. So that I'm kind of pushing Baltimore out of the point that I'm trying to make, but also kind of bringing it in by saying they developed perfectly because here they are, and they still got a really good farm system underneath them. And they're in second place in the division. I think they're behind the Yankees, but they're definitely in a wild card spot. I don't know. The next team I want to talk about is the Cleveland Guardians. 134 million they're spending. They are the best record in baseball. Why? Because they're developing just perfectly in their farm system quietly, and then bringing these guys up. They just had a kid that debuted tonight. He had a home run in his first at bat. They have the roster of guys that are like, you have Jose Ramirez, but you don't have like the, oh yeah, that guy, you know, but they're developing correctly. 129 or 134
They've always been good
million,
at it,
and they've been very good at it. And Carter Hawkins, didn't he come from Cleveland?
Well, that was the hope, is that you bring Carter Hawkins in and he brings a little bit of that secret stuff.
Yeah, well, when he is told to dump his secret stuff out at the door because this is Jed's team, it makes a little bit of a difference. But I digress. Moving on.
Funny.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah, I'll let you. No, it's quick note about Carter Hawkins. The Cubs touted his scouting of Jose Ramirez and like him being the one to find Jose Ramirez as like one of the big reasons why he became the general manager of the Cubs. I'm not sure if you guys saw this, but on Twitter there was like I think it was a Guardians fan or a Cubs fan that asked Carter about like, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about like your process finding Jose Ramirez? He's like, oh, that actually wasn't me. So the whole reason that the Cubs seemed to tout Carter Hawkins as a candidate for the job wasn't even something he did.
Well, this is just proving my point even more perfectly. So thank you for chiming in on that.
Yeah.
Now let's go to the team that is 20th in spending in the Major League Baseball. By the way, the Cubs are in 10th on this chart. I think they're 8th in something or in total or something. But
I think Spot Track looks at like adjusted salaries and stuff
this
like
is
that,
total estimated. It has the Cubs in 10th.
Okay.
Just know that in some places they are up to 8th. Spending 119 million less than the Chicago Cubs and just demoralizing them in the NL Central is the Milwaukee Brewers.
They
the
do
place
everything
where
right.
The place where Craig Counsell came from. But here's the thing. Craig Counsell, one of the best managers in baseball. Cubs got him, right? The product of baseball that was given to Craig Counsell in Milwaukee was a farm system that knows how to scout guys, that knows how to get the guys that are flying under everybody else's radar because everybody else is starstruck, put a team on the field that's going to maybe not look pretty, but is going to win you ball games, and then go out there and win said ball games. I think there are a few things that Craig Counsell has done poorly this season. I think we can say that about anybody that's worn a Chicago Cubs something on them and taken the field or put on a suit in the front office. I think everybody has a little bit of blame in them.
Yeah.
But I will scream from the mountaintops until I'm proven wrong that Craig Counsell was oversold what Jed Hoyer had for him to take and inherit and put on the field, and was oversold what ends of the earth the Cubs would go to give him what he needs. And he left Milwaukee to come to Chicago. And I think the outside world around Milwaukee was pissed because they felt like it was Craig Counsell doing all these things But now it's just proven that the Brewers are a better organization than
They
the
are.
Chicago Cubs.
They are in almost every way.
Because they get the guys, they make them good ball players, they put them on the field, and then they continue to be good ball players.
Yeah.
And then Craig Counsell knows that he has good ball players, so he can be aggressive in some of the things that he's doing because he knows that he has good ball players. They haven't won a World Series yet, obviously, but
they're going to be around a long time.
They look a lot closer than being a World Series team than the third largest market in baseball. So this isn't even about spending anymore for the Cubs. This is, well, it is about spending because it's about how much they suck at spending and how much they suck at developing these players and how much they suck at recruiting and scouting and all of the stupid stuff. Not the stupid stuff, all the stuff that you have to do to be a good baseball team. The Yankees, they're high up in spending, but they're at the top of the division. The Dodgers are buying anything that they want, but they're at the top of the division. Like the Mets is the only exception to this because they're second in spending, but that's because their owner said, hand up, I was trying to buy a World Series and I didn't know what I was doing. I'm going to start over. They're going to be a problem in a few years, by the way. So, no, stop it. My point is that Jed Hoyer's dumb. The Chicago Cubs are nowhere near smart enough to be in the same league as the Milwaukee Brewers. And we are at the beginning of being mid for another decade if nobody steps up and says, Jed, you got to do better or get the hell out of here. That's the end of my spiel.
Well, and here's the thing. Of all the teams you mentioned, they do a lot of things well. Like the Guardians and Brewers, what's even more impressive about them is their internal scouting. They know exactly what prospects to call up, and they know exactly what levers to pull to get the most out of their roster.
They also know what they need.
But here's the issue. You're not in the market of Cleveland. You're not in the market of Baltimore. You could be like the Yankees were last offseason when they were like, hey, we've kind of been mid the past couple of years. You know that Juan Soto guy in San Diego, one of the best players in baseball? Let's go get him and add him to our lineup. And look what happens. The Yankees are now a legitimate one.
And I completely agree with you. But I guess the point that I'm really trying to make here is that they want to be a Milwaukee Brewer, Cleveland Garland type team where they don't have to spend a lot and they're good and they're a top market, but they suck at being mid. They suck at being mid. That's the whole thing. They suck. You're just bad at your job. But the thing is, this is exactly what Tom wants, is because we're selling out Wrigley every night. We're building cup snakes that are worth tens of thousands of dollars in the bleachers, and he doesn't have to spend any of that money because it looks like he's doing it, but he's not. And it's just pick a lane and do it instead of trying to suck at both things, I guess is what I'm saying.
And there's another issue here too, a big issue. They like to pound their chests over this farm system.
There's Kevin chiming in. And I like this from Kevin. Jed would be great for the Pirates. Yes,
that's funny. That is funny. But here's an issue. You brag about this farm system, and yet you don't want to use them. Exactly. You want to keep putting Patrick Wisdom out there.
Yes.
You want to keep putting Miles Mastroboni out there. You keep wanting to put David Bodie out there. Yes. You don't want to call up Vasquez and give him at bats. You let him rot on the bench, then you send him back down. The same with Canario. When it looks like they could maybe give you something.
Yes.
How much longer are we going to see crucial at bats come down to 30-year-old 4A guys?
Yes.
And I understand that it's hard right now to give Canario every day at bats with where things are. I get you're playing PCA, often now, but again, like if you didn't have PCA, he's there because Mike Talkman's hurt. If Mike Talkman wasn't hurt, PCA wouldn't be playing nearly as much.
Yes.
And that's one guy you could maybe argue could be in AAA because he's not hitting for shit, but his defensive base running is out of this world. I mean, it's made him a positive F4 player because of that. But Again, you are so lack of power. You don't have any power. You don't have power arms. You don't have power bats. And you actually have some power bats in the farm system. Why not try to at least give that a shot?
Yeah.
And I understand from a pitching standpoint, Ben Brown's hurt. That's unfortunate. Kate Orton's been hurt. That's unfortunate. Jordan Wicks, bad news. That just sucks. That's truly just shitty luck. I'm not going to pound them hard from a pitching standpoint with some of those guys because we know Ben Brown would be a big part of the staff if he was healthy. Unfortunately, he's not. But with this offense and some of this other stuff, eventually your farm system is going to have to be a valuable part of your team. You can't just have it on the trophy wall to look at.
You've been bragging about it for years. Let's see it, buddy boy. Like, let's see your hard work.
Look at us. Look at us develop all these guys.
Yeah.
We want to be like the card. We want to be like the Guardians.
So let's talk about PCA for a second because Jordan and I were talking about this before you got on, Alex. I want to hear your opinion on it.
Sure.
We've tried a lot of different things with PCA, and here's what I've assessed. His defense is ridiculous, and he's super fast. That's what I've assessed from him.
Yes.
I've seen enough of him batting 8th, batting 9th, batting 7th. I want one last hurrah. Give me a series or two of him leading off. Put him in leadoff and let me see if he has any value there. Because if it's not good, thanks for coming out. Give me somebody with power like Canario up here that can play. Give me somebody else and we'll put Belly for whatever. We'll figure it out. But I just want to see him lead off because even if if he can't hit, then bunt your way to first and get on base, which he's proven he can do. I went to a game, I don't remember if it was against the Mets or if it was before that against the Cardinals. He got to lead off in 3 different innings and he went 2 for 3 and found his way to third base both times. Granted, nobody could bring him in, but he got on base. He was 2 for 3 leading off the inning. I just want to see him lead off just a little bit just to see what happens. Because I've seen everything else. It's not great and people are starting to doubt him, which stinks, but it's true. I just want to see him lead off just a little bit.
I get what you're saying. And I don't want to 100% disagree with what you're saying. Here's one thing I'll say is, I was at the game Sunday night, the Sandberg game, the retirement game. My dad and I got these great seats. We were very close to the action. You can see the pitcher and the batter right in front of your eyes. Those swings were nowhere near close.
Yeah.
Doing anything.
Well, you could say the same for Belly too right now.
I mean, at least he can still, some of his at-bats are wretched, but...
Well, how much of that is because of what you've seen in the past from him? Or, let's take it sample size for sample size. Let's go this season. Forget about everything that Cody Bellinger was before that. Can you tell me that he's been better this year at the plate than Pete Crow Armstrong?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
That's not even... Yeah.
All right, fine.
Yeah,
maybe I'm just being.
Yes.
All right, I'm just being cynical.
Absolutely.
I'm just being cynical at this point.
No,
I mean, Pete Crow Armstrong's OPS is below 600.
All right, yeah. All right, I'm being cynical. All right.
Because here's the thing: the only real regression that we're seeing in Bellinger this season is power. We're not seeing a regression in his ability to make contact. He's still hitting 273 on the season. He's putting the ball in play.
The
with
numbers
PCA,
are fine. They're fine.
With PCA, if he's not bunting, he's not making contact.
That's true.
But what I would say, Tommy, it's kind of like what I was telling you. I would just try it for the mere purpose of everything else we've tried hasn't
sucks.
worked. So,
yeah. What do you got to lose?
Why not try it?
The lack of power on the team wouldn't bother me as much if they could hit the ball. Because if you're making contact, that means you're still scoring runs. But they can't even do that. So, and really interesting conversation yesterday on 670 Score. Parkinson Spiegel talked to Jason Benetti, who is now the Tigers announcer. And he talked about how with the power being down this year, league wide, not just the Cubs, like it is down league wide, but it may have people starting to think about going back towards not launching the ball out, but trying to find more grass and moving the line along a little bit. And
Right.
we've seen some teams destroy the Cubs without power this year. So
Yes.
if
Yes.
maybe like if we weren't just so focused on hitting the ball out like Christopher Morel is when he's batting 104 or whatever the hell he's batting now, but he leads the team in home runs. What if we could get like guys like Nico Horner and Ian Happ and these guys in the middle and like the back of the lineup and our leadoff guys focused on just getting on base. Dansby Swanson, don't hit the ball out. Like just get on base and work it around.
No. Because I'm sorry. That's the exact same thing that the Cubs have been telling us for the past 6 years. And what happens in the postseason? Odolos Garcia hits the ball over the fence. Bryce Harper hits the ball over the fence.
That's true.
You pay for power. Power is the easiest way to win games in baseball. Sure. Is power down across Major League Baseball? Yes. But if you pay for a premium power hitter, you still have 20 home runs a season. Juan Soto is over 20 home runs. Otani is over 20 home runs.
Yeah,
Teoscar Hernandez, all that 20 home runs. No, you could have power, you could find power. So this need of like, offense is down, we have to find line drive hitters. It's just an excuse that the Cubs are going to feed us at the end of the season.
Okay, yeah, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to argue with you.
I didn't mean to go off, but
no, you're right. I mean, Aaron Judge, 29 home runs.
Yeah.
Shohei Ohtani, 25 home runs.
Ohtani just homered again
tonight.
And here's the thing, and we've said it before. You weren't going to get Ohtani, sure. You had Teoscar Hernandez on the market just sitting around. And
JD Martinez. I said it when I saw him. He's still hitting with the Mets. I said to my dad, he was right there this offseason.
Yeah. Honestly, with the Cubs, the only way it's going to change is if Hoyer shifts his approach in terms of paying for what wins games. That's power pitching and power hitting. Hoyer wants to be cute. He wants to win every move. That's why he's not going to make those expenditures. That's why it might be a dangerous cycle for the Cubs if they can't find that internal superstar bat, whether it's Owen Casey, Moises Ballesteros. If they can't find someone, Matt Shaw, if they can't find someone become that superstar bat, this contention window is in trouble.
Yeah. I mean, it's already in trouble, quite honestly.
It's already.
I don't see. Let's talk about the deadline. What are they going to buy that's going to fix this team?
You can't buy.
Correct.
No, you can't buy.
So what are you going to sell to prepare for next year? Can't sell either. You're stuck. Cubs are stuck.
The only
Unless
way
you're just clearing space.
The only way that your focus at the deadline has to be a move, and I wrote about it today, but Matthew Trueblood of Northside Baseball had a better in-depth piece about it. The only real move that you should look forward to at the deadline is a move where you thread the needle between selling on this season, but then also keeping your long-term vision intact. For the Cubs, it's going to come down trading from your outfield logjam. Right now, given both his lack of slug this year and just given his contract, like it or not, we're likely leaning towards Bellinger opting into that deal because with that lack of power, no one's giving him the money that the Cubs guaranteed for the next 2 years. So you have to look at one of Ian Happ or Seiya Suzuki, see if there's any wiggle room in terms of them willing to trade, waive the no trade clause and move one, because we're seeing a core of the Cubs that is not sustainable for long-term success.
Yeah.
No.
What do you think you could get for either one of those? Because I don't know if that return warrants even trying to make the move.
Well, that's the thing is, and
you need to have a backup plan for that.
Yeah, and I do always hate the whole what are you going to get? Because you don't know until you make the move, right? we don't know like the Cubs were going to trade Jackson Ferris, but they got Michael Bush. So, in terms of what you get, you have to find. I don't know. You just have to do something. Like
And okay, but
I don't know.
here's the next question. Do you trust this regime to do that correctly?
No. So here's the thing. For as
Not
as
right
bad,
now.
I was about to say, for as bad as this season has had, it's gone off the rails. No doubt about that. But we're not going to sit here and look like every single move that this regime has made has failed. That's not
No,
true.
no,
Yeah.
I don't feel that way. I think the
Yeah.
1 year deal for Belly last year was
Yeah.
incredible.
And
I mean, Shota Imanaga, great.
Fine. Michael Bush was a good trade.
Michael
Yeah.
Bush was a good trade, and I said some mean things about Michael Bush when he was slumping, but he's basically all we
you're the
have
best
now.
guy,
So,
no.
yeah, it's just yeah, sorry.
My issue with the regime is more so with their free agent expenditures. With trades, I'm not really worried about it because here's the thing. And what I loved like the past month is the revisionist history that many have had. Like, oh my God, I can't believe we gave DJ Hurst for Heimer Candelario. Here's the thing. At the time last
Nah.
year, that was the exact move that the Cubs had to make. When the Cubs
Yes.
when the Cubs make a trade, they usually wind up in a decent spot, at least with this new regime. That's what got the farm system to the point it's at now. The issue is when it comes to free agent expenditure. So this fear of like, oh, we're going to trade Hap or we might trade Suzuki and we might lose a deal. I'm not worried about them losing a trade. I'm worried about their philosophy when it comes to spending in free agency.
Yeah. Also, when you're talking about Hap and Suzuki, it kind of does make sense too, because look at how much outfield is just waiting and ready. Owen Casey's down there. Brennan Davis is down there. Canario's down there.
So Davis is interesting because he was getting hot, but then it seems he's been out of the lineup for the past couple weeks, and they haven't really said.
Hurt again.
Yeah.
Ooh. Ryan chiming in. Asking the Orioles what they would give for Justin Steele. I don't know. I don't know.
No, because here's the thing: is
I mean, it's great
it's a good-
outside the
yeah.
great outside the
No,
box
yeah.
thinking right
Yeah,
here.
I
It
get,
is.
I get the.
There are no wrong answers here. There are
There's
no wrong answers.
no, there's no wrong answers, and like ideally, if you're going to move a pitcher like Justin Steele, you absolutely want to look at the Orioles farm system. But for the type of move that we're suggesting in terms of threading the needle between selling on this season, but then also contending next season, you need Justin Steele on this team.
Oh,
'Cause,
1,000%.
again, the Cubs aren't spending on power pitching. You have a homegrown ace that's under team control.
Yeah.
And if you're going to contend next season, you have
You
to
need
have
that.
them on. Yeah, you need that.
You need
yeah.
that.
But
Now, if you want to make,
yeah, Oh, no,
I'm
go.
just saying, if you want to make an argument about trading a guy like Shota Imanaga while his value is high, I think that's more realistic because I'm not doubting Shota Imanaga, but everyone and their mother knew he wasn't going to sustain a 1.8 ERA, and we do see what happens on warm days at Wrigley Field with
When he
some of
puts
those
the ball
fly
up,
balls.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I still think you're getting a nice pitcher, but
Yeah. I mean, this Ryan. I mean, these are the vibes. These are the vibes right now.
Yeah.
Because
I don't even want to think about next
Yeah,
season yet.
I know.
I
Oh, yeah.
just, I get it. I get it.
Yikes.
But
the verdict isn't out on Jordan Wicks yet.
yeah, here's, I'm just going to be honest. I don't like playing the NFL or NBA game with the MLB draft. That is the definition of a lottery. It really,
Oh,
really
it is. Yeah,
no matter
and
who you're
yeah,
drafting.
Kevin put this in about the draft too. Yeah, I guess. I mean, it really is a crapshoot in the draft, So, the vibes are down. This is how bad
I know.
This is how bad it is right now. So, I don't. There's no fix. This team, who's to say they can't just go on a stupid run and make their way in the playoffs? But that's the least likely scenario.
Here's the problem.
You guys didn't let me finish. Let me finish.
Tommy, we can't. It's a reflex. It's a reflex when I hear that. But here's the reason why I think this is bleaker than we think for this season. The Cardinals have the tiebreaker against you right now. So do the Reds. So do the Pirates. So do the Padres. So do the Mets. And we have to win the next two, or San Francisco is going to have it as well. Every team ahead of you.
We are behind the Nationals right now in the wild card race.
Yes, we are. We're the third worst team in the National League.
Yes.
We're the third worst team in the National League.
Tied with the Cincinnati Reds. Which shout out my boy Zoe over at Sports Mockery, because we have a little wager for who's going to be better between the Pirates and the Reds right now.
This year?
Right now it's Pittsburgh Pirates, and that's who I picked.
Oh.
Yeah. Here's the only thing. I guess we can talk about it here and the Cubs conversation here, but 4 games out of the wild card in a very bad National League. And they are now 10 games behind the Brewers. Well, 10.5 because the Brewers won today. 10.5 behind the Brewers. If the Cubs would just, of their 17 blown saves, if they had just not blown 9 of them, be a game and a half out of first.
I mean, that's why it's hypotheticals.
Yeah. So it feels like you're close, but are you super close? And you've already you took 2 of 3 from the Dodgers in April at Wrigley. We got hype. We were excited. We should have known better.
Then, I mean, to your credit, you did say this team was dangerous, but I don't think you meant this type of dangerous.
I didn't
It's
mean
dangerous to our health and our mental capacity.
Right.
Yeah. And we're making these Cubs are making these mid-level teams look like world beaters.
We just had our manageable part of the schedule, and they beat us.
Yeah.
Everyone beat us.
Yep.
I mean, just look at the past 2 games. The Cubs could barely scrunch up offense when it was 2 bullpen days for the Giants. So
yeah, you had the perfect advantage.
Yep.
And Justin Steele looked like an ace the other night, and you fucked it up because you stranded how many base runners? 12, 13?
Yep.
You had vintage.
Some of those at bats were. Honestly, some of those at bats in that game with runners in scoring position, if I was a manager, I would bench their asses for those at bats. Yeah. I'm like, that is pathetic. Sit your ass down.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
Seiya, sit the fuck down.
Yeah.
I like Seiya, but when he gets in these stretches where he looks completely lost, you need to sit him down. Seriously, I think he needs a game or 2 off. And again, I like Seiya, but he goes through these stretches that kill you. And you know when it gets into his head and you're like, all right, today you're just gonna sit. Just clear your mind and sit. I think he needs a day or 2 off. I really do. The at-bats over the past week are mind-numbing. Insanely mind-numbing.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't want to swing. And then when he does swing, it's like the halfest little thing. Like, is he hurt? What's going on?
Here's an interesting thought too, just to put in our heads when we're talking about records and stuff. We keep hearing about how good this team is supposed to be and how they just haven't gotten the hits and luck hasn't gotten their way yet. Their expected win-loss record is the exact same as their actual win-loss record.
Yeah,
they are exactly where they should be.
This is exactly the team that was fielded on opening day. It is exactly the team that we had all this hope and hoopla in, because Jordan's right. It's the exact same team as last year. Yeah, the biggest move was making this team the exact same team as last year.
Yes.
Shota Imanaga is basically last year's Justin Steele, right? Best
I would
pitcher.
Say he's less. Oh yeah, I mean, I would more so angle it towards Marcus Stroman in the first half, because
yeah, absolutely, yeah. You could say that. You could say that. That's a good comp. Yeah, here's another one from Ryan. Rookie making his debut tonight for the Giants, so expect 10 Ks.
Well, it was funny because we saw
that's the kiss of death.
Well, it's funny because we saw the Brewers trade for Dallas Keuchel yesterday, and I joked with Jake, the other co-editor at Cubby's crib. I'm like, "Watch, Keuchel is going to start against the Cubs this weekend and probably just shut down the
Oh,
Cubs."
shove it, and he's gonna
Yeah.
shove it. Yeah.
Yep.
And you know what the Brewers are probably thinking was like, here, we'll give you a spring start, like we'll give you like a rehab start. Why don't you just play the Cubs right quick?
Pretty much.
God, they're probably licking their chops right now.
Oh yeah, I mean, honestly, Brewers can just coast, but yeah, it is what it is. I mean, Hoyer wasted the first season of Council. Yeah, has Council been perfect? No, but no manager has. And let me just say this to the people that are being like, "Oh, see, this is why you shouldn't have fired David Ross." Well, guess what? What happened this season was going to happen whether it was Council or David Ross. And guess what? If it was David Ross, Hoyer would sit there at the end of the season, fire David Ross, and tell you that was the reason with the team. So no, there's no difference whether it's Council or Ross.
Yeah, we don't have to play that game. And if anything to me, this kind of solidifies the point I've been saying where David Ross might not be the best manager, but I mean,
he wasn't
the
He wasn't the
people
problem.
who blamed him for everything last year. Like everything. It's like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
So,
they just, I mean, they look incompetent. They just look incompetent. So, and I hate it. I hate it for
mad, and I get mad.
Yeah, I know. I hate it for Cubs fans. I hate it for us. I hate it for Wrigley. I hate it for a lot of people and a lot of things. And I hate that. I hate that I have Brewers fan friends that are like, your team sucks, and I'm like, yeah, I know, because they're the same people that are telling me that, hey, the Bears suck and the Packers are great. I'm like, yeah, I know, but that could change.
I was about to say,
that's our only hope. Let's talk Bears.
Here's what's great, boys, because next week we'll be in July. Our next episode will be in July. Which,
by the way, we may not have an episode next week because it's 4th of July next week.
It's the 4th of July.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, we should probably
we'll probably do a 2-week break. But that only means we're another week closer to Chicago Bears training camp. And here's what I'm going to say. We have to do a better job, because even in that past segment, I'm disappointed in you guys. Because the way you guys talked about the Bears, you're still letting that pass creep in. It's a new era.
You're right. We were stupid.
Right.
We are not stupid anymore. Claws up.
Now, don't get me wrong. We'll get into the Bears still being stupid, but as I've been trying to push the past month, that's on the business side. The football side, once we see Caleb Williams, once we see Keenan Allen in training camp, it's those reasons to be excited about this team. Yeah. Now, I'm going to caution you. I'm going to caution you guys. Bears might not be a positive 500 team.
No, that's okay.
Might not even be a 500. They might be an 8-win team.
That's okay.
If they look good, if the arrow by the end of the season is pointing up like it was for the Detroit Lions 2 years ago when they beat the Green Bay Packers on the final game of the season, that's going to be a successful season.
I'm not caring. Like, we don't have to make the playoffs for me to be happy. No. I just need to see Caleb Williams set the rookie record for passing yards in the Bears franchise. And then next year, I want to see him eclipse 4,000 so we can get our name off that stupid chart of never being able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's such a cool time to be a Bears fan, because in a lot of ways, what the team is doing this year is new. We're seeing draft a quarterback, but we're seeing them actually devote nearly every resources to developing him. But as a brand on the football side, they're doing Hard Knocks. Ryan Poles is out there. How Matt Eberflus is putting time and effort into rehabilitating his image. When is the last time we had a head coach of any Chicago sports team actually take time away from their main task to rehabilitate their image?
Yeah.
And it's going to be so fun watching that aspect on Hard Knocks, and a good kickoff for the season. But now, we can pivot to the negative or positive, because I think that the Bears Yeah, I think that the Bears should be in Arlington Heights.
I agree.
My issue is with the messaging from Kevin Warren because
It's just
we we saw the report from Mark Carmen initially that there was potentially progress being made between the Bears and Arlington Heights on some tax disputes with the school districts. A day later, Carmen kind of clarified that the resolution might not be tied to the stadium and the Bears' intent is still on the city. Well, here's the thing: the city's intent isn't on the Bears. The Bears' proposal hasn't even reached the desk of lawmakers. There's a chance it does in the fall session, but every logical piece of reporting would seem to suggest that eventually this is going to go back to Arlington Heights. But the charade that Kevin Warren is doing is just embarrassing.
Yeah, I refuse to pay attention to it because
Yeah.
it's stupid too until somebody says, "Hey, we're actually moving here. This is going to be your stadium."
Call
Because
me when
until-
there's a
yeah.
shovel in the ground.
Correct. Yes. Call me when there's an actual foundation put in because we've already done the shovel in the ground crap before.
Yeah.
Or are you referring to the Chicago Spire by any chance?
I was just referring to them clearing out all the land in Arlington Heights, I guess.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
That's it.
Okay.
Shovels on the ground for that.
But yeah, when we come back from our 4th of July break, maybe we can talk a little expectation for Bears because by then the Cubs are gonna just suck so hard. We should acknowledge Kyle Hendricks. He passed 10 years of Major League service yesterday. I think was the day. He is only the 4th Cub in history to spend 10 seasons with the Chicago Cubs and just the Chicago Cubs. He joins Ernie Banks, Stan Hack, and Cap Anson as the only 3. That would be somebody from 1876, somebody from 1932, and somebody from 1953. So thank you to Kyle Hendricks on being a lifelong Chicago Cub.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
For a team that's been around forever.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, and honestly, it was cool watching him last night because it was vintage Hendricks, yes, but even in this season,
these last
was
2 starts have been like,
and
hey,
that's-
thank
and-
you.
yeah.
You know?
but it's also been like a reminder of like what made Hendricks great is his mind, how his mind works when he's on the pitching mound. So what we're seeing these past 2 starts is he took that time in the bullpen. He looked at what was going wrong. We're seeing him now use his curveball more than he ever has at any point in his career.
Yeah, he's striking guys out. Like,
and he's having success. So, hand up, I'm not going to apologize for saying in May that the Cubs should be thinking about DFAing Kyle Hendricks because guess what? At that point in time, the Cubs were a contending team. Kyle Hendricks was one of the reasons they were blowing games.
He had a 10+ ERA. It's not illogical to think that it was time to. Yeah, I'm 100% with you.
Yeah, but credit to him for sitting down, figuring it out.
Yes,
spending some time in the bullpen, and then when his number was called on again, he just came out and he's shoving. And so, is it sustainable? I don't know, but I'm sure glad it's happening.
I mean, that's also the thing because
right now you just got to be thankful that there's somebody on the Cubs doing something cool.
Yes, absolutely. And it's a guy that we all love. It's a guy that's going to be a future Cubs Hall of Famer. I'm very, very sure of that.
1,000%.
Yeah. And one of the most likable Cubs we've ever had, an absolute hero in 2016. Like, you can't not love Kyle Hendricks.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys, he's never going to ask for the spotlight. No. He's never going to ask for anything, and he's just going to, he's just a dude.
Yeah.
So thank you, Kyle.
Thank you, Kyle.
All right, boys. So we're already saying we are not going to do a show next week for the better. The following week we shall be back, probably talking about who the Cubs are going to trade because this team isn't going to buy anything cool.
Real quick, I just want to say because I saw it just scrolled past it on a little tickle. If you're like me, and tell me I know you are because we've messaged a lot about wrestling over the past couple of weeks. But if you're like me and the kid in you was a fan of wrestling And there was a point in time, 2019, 2022, the product was very bad. But
we're so back.
We are back. WWE SmackDown was in Chicago last Friday, and the show from beginning to end was phenomenal.
Oh,
we had a reunion with CM Punk and Paul Heyman that melted my heart. Drew McIntyre's return, destroying Punk in his hometown. Everything going on with the Bloodline, everything going on with the Wyatt Six. It's a great time to be a wrestling fan, and it's only going to be taken to the next level because next January they're moving to Netflix, which means a lot of the censored restrictions that are in place in Fox, when you have the fans chanting some crazy stuff, the screen goes black, the audio goes out, you're like, wait, what's being said? Yeah. You won't run into that issue on Netflix. And again, yes, it's fake, but if you look at it like a male,
but it's poetic. It's poetic. Yeah. I'm all the way back in. I had it on this week because I thought the McAfee stuff was going to be crazy. Obviously, it turned out a lot different than we thought. But Alex, I don't know if Alex, I don't know.
I know nothing about that.
All right, well, all right, we'll table that for another time.
That's okay. That's okay.
We'll keep that on the other chat. Just
but,
I don't care if we talk about it.
Okay, great. All right, great. Maybe we're gonna get him. We're gonna get him to watch it. We're gonna get him to watch it
eventually. Let's end on this note, since we're taking a break next week. Do you think the Chicago Cubs roster, as it stands now, will be the same when we return in 2 weeks?
No,
not fully.
Somebody's gonna get hurt.
I think we'll see.
I mean,
I like it.
That's how it goes. Somebody's going to get hurt.
I'm thinking, they might call up a prospect. They might, do this, and then there's someone's going to get hurt.
Someone's going to get hurt.
I don't disagree with you.
I don't disagree, but
right.
I will say one of Owen Casey, Matt Shaw, or Alexander Canario.
If Matt Shaw comes up and hits a bomb in the first week of doing it, I'm buying a jersey.
I will say,
you have to Shaw it, people. You have to Shaw it.
I will say one of those three players by this time in 2 weeks will be a fairly regular part of the song.
All right. Well, I hope you're right, because then I will be watching even more intently than I already am. So whatever. All right, boys. Great run here. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and watching.
Good comments today.
Yeah, good words today. Good words today. So we're gonna take a 4th of July break because we are Americans, and that's what we do on the 4th of July is we don't work. And then
we don't work. We see our friends. We eat hot dogs. We drink beer. It's gonna be great.
Yeah. And we watch the hot dog eating contest, which we're not going to do.
No,
because what's the point?
Not until September.
When the real hot dog competition is.
Can't wait.
I watched the fireworks instead with my friends.
We should do a watch along. I know we floated it out there. We should definitely do a watch along in September.
Yeah,
I agree.
There you go. All right. Well, boys, thank you. Everybody, thank you for watching. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Later.
See you.